Good morning. Again, we always have this great intro. How are you? How is everybody today? Wild weather ride again last night. Michael's going to be on with us. He's going to be getting on just here in a minute. But it was a wild weather ride last night. No hail for us. Couldn't even believe it. As a matter of fact, we didn't even hardly get any rain, which was not what I was looking forward to. We need to have a little bit more rain. So that was kind of disappointing. But before we get started this morning, with our guest, I wanted to show everybody something. So we're going to kind of do an anatomy of a push card. So this card came in the mail to me the other day, and I want you to notice the push card. All right. Do you see anything on there other than call and thank Senator Grant Green? I'm reading backwards in the screen. That's, and you get your text. So on the back, I want to point out something. See the box right here. Okay. Now this was my address, but notice there's nowhere on this card that says paid for by. Okay. So this card is basically an illegal card because it has nothing on it that tells where it came from at all. And in fact, the only thing that's in this, it says first class mail. Good morning, Michael. U.S. postage paid, Lawton, Oklahoma, permit number 892. That's all it says. Ooh, wow. Now we're getting it. You can't even hardly see it. So, but that's all it says. So this is an illegal push card. And I have not had a chance to yet, but today, this is going to the Ethics Commission, and I'm going to report them because I'm sick of this garbage going on. I'm just sick of it. But I think more than anything, churches are a place for worship, not anti-American protests. This was a terrible bill. So Grant Green, they're thanking Grant Green for fining people standing on a sidewalk outside a church. Does that sound like a good bill to you? Does it? No, but Grant Green voted for it. So
there ain't no standing, Jenny. There ain't no standing outside the church.
Ain't no standing. Ain't no videoing. Ain't no standing.
There ain't no disclosing of who's paying for these advertisements. And of all people, Grant Green should know that he should not be sending you, Jenny White, who's going to actually look at who's, where this postcard is originating dollar-wise from. So just in that vein alone, I think Grant Green disqualifies himself as being a competent representative.
Well, and Grant Green does have a competent challenger, so that's something to consider. So, the whole thing about this is he didn't send it out. I'm sure some other group sent it out on his behalf. But here's the kicker. So when I was doing all of that dark money stuff in 2021, 22, I found out, now get this. So if I wanted to find out who sent it, I could find out who bought permit number 892.
Yeah.
But I want you to understand that the U.S. Post Office will not give out that information.
Anymore? They used to give it out, but now they don't, or they won't.
I don't know if they did or not, but I know for a fact they won't give it out now unless you get somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about, and you can get them on the line and go, hey. But yeah, so this is bad juju. And who do we know that's in Lawton? Isn't there a big broadband company, a group? I think they're called the Hillieries. They donated multi hundreds of thousands of dollars to candidates in the state. It wouldn't be me, but I mean other candidates in the state, and they're headquartered in Lawton. I mean, I'm just saying I'm not saying they sent this out. I'm just saying, they're headquartered in Lawton. So frustrating. I mean, am I wrong?
The season is upon us, Jenny.
But it just makes me mad because people follow the laws they want to, and then the people that are supposed to be meting out the laws for, I don't know a better way to say it, making you follow the laws, don't make you follow the laws.
Yeah, that's the real issue. When I came up. Yeah. When I ran for school board, and there was a lot of ethics issues within, not my campaign, we followed all the rules.
Yeah.
But when I would contact the ethics commission, they never even send me back an email or call me back or anything. I mean, it's such a joke. I mean, it's a literal joke.
Well, it's a frustration. I can tell you that. Shelley says some power hungry cop will arrest people just because he's mad and he's working and they're talking outside of a church. But it's true. I mean, this was a very, very bad bill. It was a very, very bad bill because they shoved it down everybody's throat and had to get it passed in the first 15 minutes of session. Yeah. You always know those are bad bills because that those are the bills during campaign season that they're going to go put in people's mailboxes. Okay. Because like Molly Jenkins and Jim Shaw have gotten, they didn't want freedom of religion in Oklahoma. Well, guess what? They didn't want, Jim Shaw and Molly Jenkins didn't want people arrested on the sidewalk in front of a church either. Or fined. Or here's the other part of that bill that's so exciting. You can go to jail for that. Do you really think we need to have more people in jail just because they were standing outside the sidewalk of a church holding a sign that you didn't like?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, what a pile of poo. Oh, Molly says, there's Molly. They are evil, and it just means we fight harder and smarter. You're darn right, Molly Jenkins, and you were right, and they were wrong. And just so that you know that I know, and I will say it publicly, because it's wrong. It's completely wrong. And well, I guess that's part of the reason why I'm running, because I see this stuff happening all the time, and it's completely wrong, and it makes me just agitated as all get out. And this is why I belong to the Leave Me Alone party. I wish we had one of those. I'd be part of the Leave Me Alone party, wouldn't me? Yeah. Oh, Christy says, oh my gosh, I agree with you again.
We're the LMAPs.
The LMAPs. Yeah, Christy and we go back and forth. She's got so many. She has this program. Christy, you're gonna have to come on the show, and I'll get you if you've got time. I'll get you on for next month. She and a friend of hers. Now, don't forget, Christy's the girl that I've had the podcast with before. She's a Democrat. Oh my gosh. And she and a friend put together it's not a website, it's a Google Doc, isn't it, Christy? It's the most tremendous thing I've ever seen. I always wanted to do something like this and just never got around to it. And she took it and did it. If you go, and I'll have to get it and I'll get her on to talk about it, but it is the most, how you vote, what happens to a bill, where the bill goes, all the steps for a bill, what happens when you contact your legislator. I mean, if there was somebody who didn't know anything about the political process and you gave them Christy and her friend's document, they would be like, got it. Link tree is what we use to post links to docs with explanations. I don't even know what that is, but she's going to have to show me because it's super cool. And again, I'll call, if I don't text you this afternoon, then text me and we'll get her on the show and have her walk through that, because honest to goodness, it's the best thing, the best thing I've ever seen. And I was so jealous. I'm but I was going to do that, but she did it and she did it great. Julie says, Christy, the differences are between the self-avowed leaders and we, the little people, not blue and red and left and right. Yes, I 100% agree. And I'm just tired of all of that stuff too. So we agree more than we don't. I mean, some of the disagreements are big. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they really are, like abortion, for example. But some of the other ones aren't that big and we can work together where we can. And I think that's part of the reason why. Yes, exactly. I think that's part of the reason why they do the whole left-right thing is because of the fact that there are crazies on either end. We're not talking about the crazies on either end. We're talking about the middle people. Yeah. Us middle people can get along if you leave us in a room by ourselves. We'll figure that out. But it's the getting the two ends, which are already not really, they're too probably wild and crazy to actually participate well, as they're not joiners. But they play them off of each other and then they make everybody mad at each other and then nobody talks and then the people at the top win, and that's what they're trying to do. And I disagree with that. And I just think we can agree where we can and disagree where we can't agree, but then be nice to each other, because what does it take to be nice to each other? Nothing. Just be nice. Just say, you know what? I don't agree with that. How hard was that? How hard was that?
I think we're all pretty nice for the most part, Jenny. You just have, within that whole system that, and really it goes back to Marxism. You have that fracturing of all the people to keep them divided, over all this political BS. And then now we're not looking at what all these guys on the top are doing. We're too busy looking at, what's going on right in front of our face.
Well, and all the controversies, and this is good. She says, take government out of the equation, though, and we aren't vying for king of the hill. We're having discussions with our neighbors about real life experiences, about the winner getting this without the winner getting the spoils. And that's honestly that's so true. I mean, it just is. And I don't know, but I don't want to leave poor Adam. He's got some great information for today, and I don't want him just leaving down there while we're talking about all of that. But again, when you see this kind of thing, send it to the ethics department. Just look, or the ethics commission, look up Oklahoma Ethics Commission. I don't have an exact address, but you can do this. Look up Oklahoma Ethics Commission and how to file a complaint, and then file a complaint. Okay. When you get something like this, they need to know.
Complaining, Jenny. Ain't no complaining.
Ain't no complaining. Ain't no standing. Ain't no video and ain't no visiting. All right, well, let's talk. Let's bring in Adam this morning. How are you this morning, Adam? It's good to see you. Whoop, I got you muted. Hold on. There we go. Okay. How are you?
Doing excellent. And it's good to see you, Jenny and Michael. It's a great pleasure to be on here with both of you.
Well, thank you for coming on. You got on early and you and I were like talking for 15 minutes before the show. You are way over my head, buddy. I mean, you know so much more than I do. Way over my head. So let's go to I feel like Maria from Sound of Music. Let's start at the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. You originally brought a suit. Now, which is the one about the elections in general? The ones that we were just talking about that's before the Supreme Court?
That's the very first one after my race in 2022.
Okay, so explain that one.
Yes, ma'am. In 2022, in the midterm, I was prompted to run for the U.S. Senate. Since then, Mark Wayne has proved Oklahoma very proud in that position. However, after I was prompted to research more about the primary elections, and what God revealed through the research is what we know as common practice today and as the system that we need to protect was actually not designed or constitutionally right. And the presidential preferential primary that really took and sweep the country in 1910 was unconstitutional. It's designed to remove every eligible candidate that could be represented to the full electorate, and it removes every voter's constitutional right to have every eligible candidate to choose who may represent and have power or wield power in our federal government.
So this was the thing that I did not understand. So you're saying that the Constitution says, well, I knew it was one day, one vote, because I went on a rant on my Facebook page about that the other day, because we've got a bill right now that is going to allow even more days for you to vote absentee. And I'm like, stop, because that's going to somehow help stop confusion. And like adding more days is going to stop confusion. What about just going to one day? That's pretty not confusing.
How about declare a national holiday for voting and everybody's off so they can vote in one day?
I just don't understand it. I mean, and I do know the one vote, one day is constitutional, and we just don't follow that with this whole, let's, make it convenient, whatever that means for everybody by allowing them to vote for 2.5 years or whatever we leave the polls open for now. But the point of the matter is that you're saying that on the one day, yes, see, this is another reason why I love Shelley Griffith. So you're telling me that on the one day that we vote, we just put everybody out there, libertarian, independent, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter what your stripe is. We just put you out there, and there are like 27 of you, and you vote for whichever person you like.
Correct. That's what the Constitution indicates, because Article 1, Section 2, Clause 2 and Article 1, Section 3, Clause 3 are the only qualifications required to run. It didn't add a political affiliation designator. Minimum age, minimum citizenship. If you're qualified and you're not ineligible to be on that ballot, you have a constitutional right, as well as all of we the people have the right to see everybody equally upon the day that constitutionally our vote matters. A truncated list from a NGO's designation beforehand isn't constitutional.
Well, you have to explain that. I mean, because I wasn't thinking about it like this either, and I'm just assuming that everybody's like me.
Well,
NGOs
don't get me wrong. I am all for political parties, because we have a right to freedom of assembly and shared thoughts and ideas. What is and has been kind of perverted in the whole system is we have allowed non-government organizations called political parties, the Democrat Party and the Republican Party, to be the gatekeeper of who we, the people, are allowed to see that are eligible, that don't necessarily have the influence or the inside to those NGOs to be represented amongst the fake election in November.
The fake election. So now it's just like fake.
Well, it's not constitutional. Yeah, think about it. Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1 is our elections clause. It's the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. So if the election in June is not replacing the power of the senator or representative, then that's not a real election because it did not elect the senator or representative.
So you're saying that the only way we should be voting is if that vote is going to, I don't want to say overturn because that's not right.
Change power.
Change power.
Yeah, the way the Constitution was designed, that and some of the things are in time, words change meaning.
Yeah.
At the time of the Constitution. Now, I love this quote from Samuel Adams from January 21, 1776. I believe he wrote a letter to John Pitts regarding the Declaration of Independence, and he gave a very prophetic warning. How strangely the tools of a tyrant pervert the plain meaning of words. So now, a couple hundred years later, we have manner being perverted as a means to the manner. Manner means form or method. The mechanisms to get to the election, for example, mail-in ballots, in-person voting, absentee voting. Those are mechanisms. Those are a form or a method to get the public choice recorded.
And that can be prescribed by the legislature.
I'm sorry, you're kind of cracking up on me.
Oh, sorry.
You're okay. I think it was Adams because Adam froze on the screen for just a second, Jenny.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So you're saying that the legislature can prescribe the manner in which we vote. So they can say, well, we're going to do absentee, we're going to do in person, we're going to do, whatever, right?
Right, but they cannot create the law on how primaries and other things are done. One of the things, and this is what people haven't seen, I don't believe the Constitution was intended to have lawyers that do double speak and punctuations to create a legal system that a common person would not be able to understand.
Yeah.
How many times
kind of reminds you a little of what happened in the early, 1000s and up to about 1500s, where the church did everything in Latin so people couldn't read the Bible, right? I mean,
yeah.
He who has the gold makes the rules, right?
Yeah, and that's the danger addiction to power. And that's why the framers of the Constitution were so deliberate in the way our First Amendment was to be backed up by the Second Amendment. Because when King George would happen to insurrect this new experiment, the constitutional republic, which we're not a democracy.
Right.
It's like a pathological liar will tell you this so many times until you start believing the truth. We don't believe we're a democracy. We act democratic, but we are a constitutional republic for a reason, for freedom. And that's one of the wisdoms that the framers of the Constitution understood. And that's why, if you look at the original meaning of the Second Amendment, where the people's rights shall not be infringed, in the 1773 Samuel Johnson's dictionary, it actually describes people as not the prince, not the noble, the common. So there's no mistaking in the legal terms if you look at the meaning of the word at the time of the construction. And that's where these courts have created precedent to overthrow the Constitution.
Interesting. Well, Julia says Samuel Adams was against centralizing government with the Constitution. The Declaration of Independence is actually the opposite of the Constitution. One was independence from government, one created it. And Shelley says, thank you, Adam. I'm so sick of people using democracy. And they do it. They do it a lot. Okay, I want to dial back down because you have something that to me is, well, almost a little unbelievable. I'm just kind of shocked. You, by yourself, representing yourself, have a case before the United States Supreme Court.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct. The very first case dealing with primary elections, we got it through the 10th Circuit Appeals Court. During the process of trying to get this case even first started, I had to file pro se the day before the statute of limitations ran out on June 27th of 2024. And since then, it's just been one thing after another as far as, well, God's dropped this revelation in at the right time. And each time I've been able to move to the next step and be where it's at.
Well, you said you had to file pro se, Adam. Is that because no other constitutional attorney or anybody like that would get on board with you, and you just had to do it yourself anyway, or what was the circumstance with that?
The sad part is I threw the list away because their names were useless to me at this point. If you're going to be a constitutional group that gets donations to represent constitutional issues, and you come back and there's a constitutional deal that you can lay it out. If you follow the case, and especially the Supreme Court booklet, there are some legitimate key points, and they say, I'm sorry, it's not in our purview. So that's what I ran into a lot. Maybe God's just using a David to take down a giant, whatever.
So what are you asking the Supreme Court? Let's get to that. What are you asking the Supreme Court?
Well,
The Supreme Court one that I showed Jenny, I'm trying to get it to the right one, but
hold on. Hold on. Let me just pull it in your screen.
Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, one of the main questions, there's three main questions on the next page. There's a questions presented part. In this, I'm asking the Supreme Court on number one there, under the election clause, and with this court's decision, the Supreme Court had ruled in 1995 with U.S. Term Limits Inc. versus Thornton that the states are to divest from adding additional qualifications for federal offices because the Constitution did not permit those qualifications. States are not allowed to add term limits to federal offices because the Constitution did not permit it so. So in this question, what we were asking is if state-run primaries operating in conjunction or entwined with state power with NGOs, the political parties, if they can directly or indirectly strip candidates and all of the voters of their constitutional rights to fully participate in the only constitutional election that these candidates are running for.
Interesting.
And we didn't get a chance to talk about this before. One of the things I'm also attaching on this is a lot of people don't realize Act Blue and a lot of these big corporate political donors that are canceling out everybody's voice. That was in Obama's era in 2010. United Citizens versus the FEC basically gave it where corporations have First Amendment rights. I'm sorry. I thought we, the people, created the Constitution to protect people's rights, not businesses like the lords over England.
Yes, that was a horrible, and you had a lot of conservatives who stuck up for that. But that's what's really given rise to all of the dark money that we're seeing today, is that nonsensical ruling.
Well, that's one of the things I'm asking the Supreme Justices to declare unconstitutional, as that third question there, because the Constitution was made to protect we the people, the persons, not artificial entities and agencies to rule over the people.
That's very interesting. Well, I have to say again, Adam, it's just I'm amazed that you managed to, you managed to get a case before the Supreme Court, and they're going to actually look at it. When did you say March 13th?
No, it was actually distributed to the justice on the 25th, and they're doing a conference, meaning that between then and the 20th, they're going to be researching and hands-on this petition. So on March 20th, there's an opportunity for us to be called in for oral arguments. So I'd have to go to Washington, D.C., or they may relist it or want to do more research into it.
Well, I just honestly, I think it's fascinating because how many times, and Michael, you and I have talked about this a million times, how many times have we found something and realized, well, we've been doing it all this time and that's not even right?
Yeah.
Just because something has been done in practice doesn't convert it into law. If it's
That's what I said to
unconstitutional.
the state election board.
Yeah. But what's interesting in that first case, I'm really calling upon Marbury versus Madison, 1803, because one, it is up to the court to say what the law is, not make law, but to confirm what the legislature and the federal Congress had made.
Why has nobody come forward to want to? I would like to see a case go to the Supreme Court to strike down Marbury versus Madison. That's what I would like. You just get rid of the thing.
I think they know that they can't really do that because it's such a foundational, and this is the problem when judicial.
But who made it foundational, Adam?
All the cases since 1803.
Yeah, the cascade of everybody using it.
I know. It's just not right. That's another one that goes filed under the just because we've been doing it doesn't make it right thing.
And that's a danger when the whole Samuel Adams warning, how strangely the tools of a tyrant pervert the words. So in a lot of cases, the words have been perverted. Oh, the court says what law is, as we can make precedent to create law. And there's a lot of different laws that have been added because they take the weakest minded person. That's why not too many years ago, the search and seizure had added package purpose amnesty, so to speak, where if it was designed and looks like a gun case, they pull you over for a felony, they can look in the gun case and stuff like that. There are things that have been added based on precedent because other people were charged to further erode our constitutional amendment.
I never
And
thought about that. But this is Shelley makes a really good point too. Due process, we're not even following that either. I mean, look at so many of the different, oh my goodness, look at Darren Blanchard. He's going to be on our show next month. He was the man who stood up at a town meeting and went like 2 or 3 or 5 seconds over, and they arrested him at I mean, what? It's ridiculous, but I'm with
China much.
Okay,
Well,
so you've got this case at the Supreme Court, and you're going to have to let us know. That's just fascinating to me. And you know what? Good on you, as they say in Australia, because, so many of us. So you've been a candidate. You are a candidate right now, Adam?
No, I'm not running for office at the moment. God has prompted me to be ready for another race for the same position. Just He's not released me to run yet.
But you and Michael, because you run for office as well, it's just shocking to me how you get your walk list and you find that people that you thought were active voters aren't.
Or not even registered. There's people that I know that are highly political that aren't even registered to vote, Jenny. I was literally just looking this up the other day.
I just find that repugnant. I mean, I'm sorry, but I find it repugnant. So you're going to blabber. You're going to insert yourself in political conversation. You're going to wave your hands and scream, but you can't be bothered to go to the poll to vote.
Yeah.
It doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Well, maybe, that's probably why we're in this situation. So Adam, when did the Constitution, and we're talking about the United States Constitution, correct? Right. We're not talking about the Oklahoma State Constitution. In the Constitution, when I say that, I'm referring to the United States Constitution. I guess it does not refer to political parties in any capacity, anywhere in the Constitution, in the amendments, in anywhere like that.
That is correct. And furthermore, a lot of people don't realize, yes, state constitutions are great for each state. However, when we federalize with the federal constitution, Article 6, Clause 2 says the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, meaning it trumps even state constitutions.
Yeah.
But the state constitutions are there to help protect the state citizens as a way to combat the federal. But by the end of
I think in our state constitution, right there in the preamble or right there in the beginning, it literally says that the United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land, just confirming that it's almost subservient, to the federal Constitution. So when did that kind of political party take control of who gets to run kind of did that go all the way back to 1910? I know you mentioned that date. Like when did they really kind of switch over and take control of how and who gets to run like that?
That's a good question.
Yeah, it absolutely is a great question, because ever since the Declaration of Independence, and then in 1788, the Constitution, the first 10 Bill of Rights was formed and ratified a few years later, they have always been trying to insurrect and undo this great experiment of freedom. That's why in 1803, they had that very pivotal case with Marbury versus Madison. So later on, in 1910, it actually started in Oregon as the first state with this new presidential preferential primary based system. And it spread within 2 to 3 years. A majority of the states of the Union were on this new system.
And nobody said anything then, though. So I guess that's the other problem. Is why doesn't this get stopped at the beginning? How does it just keep being allowed. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah, because that's one of the cases in this most recent case dealing with State Question 836. The court actually used this against me. There was an 1896 Supreme Court ruling of Waterworks that prohibits courts enjoining or stopping legislative action. So in the process, and that's some of what we're going to get into here soon, is the perversion of words in the 14th Amendment, how the word make, according to legal actions right now, they're converting that to the word made. So they have to wait until a unconstitutional act is made before we can have redress.
well, I guess in a way that does make sense. I mean, you can't stop something that isn't really real.
Right.
You can't
But-
stop the idea. You have to stop the thing that the idea begat.
Okay, so one interesting revelation on the 14th Amendment. So I'll just go ahead and read the whole thing, because I know after high school we all just kind of like got busy with life, and I think that's how they designed the system, to keep us divided and separated and too busy to see what the kings at the top were doing. So the 14th Amendment: all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law that shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. The reason I read that is no state shall make, based on the enacted law theory that the court is using to block it.
Right.
And enacted means made. So why did the framers put that no state shall make or enforce? Enforce means it's already made. It's already enacted.
Well, I read that as two separate things. They'll either not make, nor will they enforce it after it's already been made. That's the way I read that.
Okay, I'm going to get over into dictionary mode. Hopefully the viewers can. Okay, so
which dictionary are you using though, Adam? That's what I wanna
Exactly.
know.
I'm using Samuel Johnson's Dictionary of 1773,
All right,
which was the common language of the day and the understanding of what those words meant in that day. So that's a really good deal. And I'm also using Black's Law Dictionary, that the foundation was built on the 4th edition. So in Samuel Johnson's Dictionary of 1773, the word make is to create, to compose as parts, materials, ingredients, to do, to perform, to practice, to use in action, to bring into any state or condition, to commit, to compel, to force, to constrain, to constitute, or to mold, or to form. So make means any step leading up to the completion or enacted. Now, Black's Law actually reinforces a stronger definition of that. Black's Law says encompasses the formal steps by which a law is brought into existence, not merely a completed enactment.
Okay.
So make is not a enacted law. It's the process to make. Or enforce. Enforce is a enacted law. Because you can't enforce something that's not made.
Right.
But you can make something that's not made and still stop it, because the 14th Amendment is prohibitory language against the state from doing such as a protection of citizen rights.
Okay. Well, let's go on to the second part of that, and that was the part that you were using against State Question 836.
I'm sorry, my video cut out. I couldn't hear what you asked.
So let's go on to the second part.
Okay.
And that's the one that you were using to you were suing the state for allowing the language or the state question itself.
Yes. The 14th Amendment is very pivotal also in the state question 836 because it actually, where it's prohibitory as far as the state cannot make or create something that would lead to a constitutional injury at the end of it. So part of it is where the part of the 836 on that one PDF I gave you the with the 4 pages, the very last one showing the ballot title.
Right. Where is that on your?
It's not. It's in that attachment I sent you with the
Okay.
where Drummond done up the legal form of the ballot question.
Okay. All right. I will look for that while you continue.
Okay, part of the state question 836, a lot of the legal wording is very concerning with how they have tried to circumvent the system. The ballot itself says an open primary system for regular and special elections for state officers, county officers, district attorneys, members of the legislature, and members of Congress. What that includes is the federal positions, which is already protected by Article 1, Section 4, and Article 1, Section 2 and 3. But they're trying to change laws that would allow, basically in the open primary, it would allow like what happened in Tulsa, where you may have 3 really strong candidates, all with over 30% points for their race, and you have a neck to neck, and there's 2 Democrats and 1 Republican, and they will take the 2 Democrats like they did in Tulsa, and every Republican and every Christian and everybody of any kind of faith or belief that aligns with the Republican Party, in that instance, they were silenced and they were abridged their right to support a candidate of their like faith and assembly. In the further down, they even clarify, because the first ballot petition when they sent it out was very loose worded, and I think that was intentional to make it sound really good to people, so they get as many signatures as they could.
Now I'm on the right document, right?
No, it's that 4-page PDF I instant messaged you last night.
Oh, well, I'm not going to have that. I mean, that'll be. Oh, interesting. So I'm looking at this too. So we're going to have to, hold on. Maybe, possibly. Oops, it's not working the way I need it to. Okay, there we go. Got it. All right. You have an entire presentation on this.
Yeah, I believe that's the appeals booklet that was before the Supreme Court booklet.
Yeah.
But that's the first case.
That's
on my website, the adamforoklahoma.com, people can go in, and there's 2 buttons on the homepage under the first paragraph. One is primary elections, which is where that is in the appeals court. And they can also go to the state question 836, and they can look at every filing that I'm able to post up online for public transparency. I'm a big believer in, when it's dealing with, you see those 2 buttons down at the bottom of that paragraph. The primary will go to the Supreme Court case, and the state question 836 is everything up to where we are now, including the opening brief I just turned into the appeals court in Colorado.
Oops. Doesn't want to, I don't know why it doesn't want to share this. Okay, there we go. Let's try that. Okay, can you see that? All right. So this is talking about where you are with everything right now, right?
Correct. In the very bottom one, you see the state question opening brief. That's what the 10th Circuit Appeals Court just received, which started a 30-day clock for the Secretary of State and the Oklahoma State Election Board to respond.
Oh, and you have that filing history and everything. Okay, so explain to people what you're expecting, what you would like the court to do.
With the state question 836, the main objectives is to, if we can get them to actually rule on that states are to use the 14th Amendment the way it was designed and intended to allow or permit people like you or me to have a redress to stop a clear violation of Constitution before the violation happened.
And you're alleging that the state question violated the Constitution. How? Explain it one more time.
The First Amendment right of association of political parties. Now, whether it was Republicans keep power from now on because they get the top two vote getters, or the Democrats, I don't agree with any party or any voice being canceled or silenced on the day that actually confers the transfer of power, according to the Constitution. And it was so much so that there was actually, I think in Alabama, forgive me, I don't know the year, but there was actually a case that instigated the federal day of election as the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, because of the evils of the primary system that created two different election dates. So I thought that was kind of interesting that there was already precedent that they created a federal day of election to solve this problem. Now we're trying to undo it in different mechanisms. We're still getting the November election, but we're trying to manipulate who can be on that November ballot now.
So that's so interesting. So you, as we were talking about it earlier on, you, according to the Constitution, we only have one election, and everybody, doesn't matter your political affiliation, everybody goes on the one ballot.
Correct. When it comes to the end of the day, the Constitution and Congress, the federal Congress created the November general election date in Congress, which is permitted according to Article 1, Section 4. Now, what's the interesting byproduct is the state legislature is only prescribed the time, place, and manner, but they've created laws that are after that semicolon. So after that semicolon, you're looking at, but the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulation. Okay, the way I read it is this is the federal Constitution, right? Article 1, Section 4, that's the federal Constitution, not a state constitution. If the federal Constitution is supreme law of the land, and before the semicolon is broke out what the state is prescribed, after the semicolon, the reference of the Congress is the federal Congress may make any law, not states. Since 1910, states have made laws to create means to a manner by violating candidates and voters' rights from the full electorate on the day that it matters.
And Oregon was the first place that did that.
Correct.
The first state that did that. So up until then, if I was alive back then and I wanted to run for president prior to that, I could get myself on the ballot. Is that
Mhm.
is that how it worked prior to that?
Yeah, they've been trying to manipulate how they hold elections. For a lot of it is for the ease of the state. Well,
Yeah.
the Constitution isn't designed to ease the government. It's designed to restrain and protect the people from the government. So, and that's one of the things that in the Supreme Court case, they basically denied the case and affirmed with the appeals court, affirmed with the Western District Court, saying that precedent in 1970s said primaries were constitutional, but precedent don't make constitution null.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was created as an unconstitutional act, it doesn't, repetition doesn't confer constitutionality.
Yeah. Well, and really, when you look at it, Adam, I mean, really, all the problems that we have probably devolved from this or evolved from this whole situation, because we always just get to choose what we think is the worst of two candidates, the best of these two loser candidates. I mean, that's how it always is. And that's, we don't get to actually have the people that we need in there.
Absolutely. And not only that, but it wasn't until after I filed my final response to the appeals court that I ran across and God revealed to me why they needed to create this system, because they can manipulate primary elections to help better garner who they sent in the federal Congress. But in 1895, and I reference this in my Supreme Court booklet that the justices are looking at right now. In 1895, the Supreme Court ruled in Pollock versus Farmer that taxation without apportionment is unconstitutional.
Right.
Okay, so what was the first constitutional amendment ratified really quickly after 1910, when the primaries began to spread in that next 2 years? The 16th Amendment created the Federal Reserve, the IRS.
Yeah.
Called it taxation could be unapportioned, basically.
Oh, wow.
So they just overthrew and insurrected a Supreme Court ruling that preserved the people.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is going to kind of make you hot, especially
Right.
Jim. Okay. So how hard do you think it would be, or that it should be, to ratify a constitutional amendment as our framework? It shouldn't be something that should be
pretty hard.
So what if I told you that the 16th Amendment was ratified by February 3rd of 1913? And how long after do you think the next one would have been ratified? At least years, right?
Right, because it takes forever to get the states to sign on.
2 months.
No, I cry BS on that. What was that about?
Okay, so February 3rd, 1913, the 16th Amendment ratified to overthrow the Supreme Court and to be able to tax and create the Federal Reserve and the central banking hook into America, right? It also took Treasury functions and gave it to central bankers or outside NGOs. The 17th Amendment is where we started popularizing the federal positions in the House of Representatives and state or the U.S. senators. So should this mechanism of primary system, this is a question, if it's easily manipulated and they seize power before a state would be able to, based on its local representation, its people, to fire a U.S. senator and send another in its stead quickly. Now it's like we got lifetime seats. Now, is that design? I don't think it was accident. So you control the finances, you create the system of enslavement, and then you create a system that you can keep power to ensure you create the laws for that system.
Bye, Adam. We'll talk to you later. But it's what you're saying. my partner there forced me to read a book, The Killing of Uncle Sam by Rodney Howard Brown. What was that, 2 years ago?
Yeah, a couple years ago.
Yeah. And it's just you
Well, we the people
general
have
public,
definitely,
we talked to,
yeah, we the people have definitely been removed from the equation,
yes.
specifically with a lot of the things around that 16th Amendment and all the banking stuff. And I mean, and then the furtherance of, just like what you're doing, Adam, with, how now we only have these two choices because no one else can ever, run and get in those because they're so highly controlled.
But think about it as not political parties, but as NGOs. If we now,
Yeah.
mind you, I am registered Republican because of my faith and my belief. I am not sold, like the GOP is not my God, right? I am registered as a Republican because it aligns, and I think it's my responsibility to not be independent. That doesn't stand for anything or everything. And the other party is against my beliefs. So as far as being registered for who you believe for, that First Amendment religious right, as well as right of peaceful assembly,
Association.
it is the fundamental baseline that the framers knew that we could never allow the king to silence our voice or who we serve.
And yet we did.
Yep. Well, it goes back to a quote that I used to live by. I'm beginning to add other quotes to my pen. But the only thing necessary for evil to prevail is good men to do nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
No matter how small you may feel or you may seem, if you are given a revelation of something like this, the way I view it is a revelation from God is not at the mercy of men gone mad. So if I have to stand on a hill alone, thank God I have my beautiful wife, Crystal, that has been very supportive and praying with us on it and walking every step away with it. But it's literally been God, me, and my wife. So, but in that aspect, we're not so small, we cannot shake the ladder of power.
Well, I will. I think the most important reason to have you on to me this morning isn't even what you're doing, because even though you've explained it to me and I understand it a lot better now, there's something about, I guess I've been indoctrinated for so long into the system that we have right now that I'm like, I don't know if you put everybody out there all together one time. And I'm like, how, it's just crazy how that kind of stuff happens. But I think the most important thing about having you on today is, do people really understand that they can represent themselves and have an issue heard before the U.S. Supreme Court? So when we all start boo-hooing about we're so little and government's so big, and I just think we need to quit playing their game, right? Because they want us to feel like we're little and that it's so big. I mean, if we just go, I'll do what I want, thank you, and you just go out and run, or you do file something at the Supreme Court by yourself because you can't find an attorney to represent you. You just do it. You know what I'm saying? And we've been so inculcated in this, I don't know what I want to call it. Maybe just a spirit of
Complacency.
being incapable. We're just incapable. And I think they mean for us to be that. It's that, Michael, you've talked about it before, learned helplessness, right? We've talked about that phrase before, learned helplessness, where I do think that part of what the people in power want for us is they want us to believe that we're inconsequential, that we're little bitty, they're great big. If, we're just going to get beaten down if we try to buck the system. And I'm not saying it's easy. I mean, all three of us have run for office. This is the dumbest game ever. I mean, I've played some dumb games with the kids, growing up, but this is the dumbest game ever. How much time do you go, Mother, may I? Mother, may I run? Mother, may I do this? Mother, I mean, it's the dopiest thing ever. It's just it makes it really hard for people who would want to run. I mean, am I wrong?
No, it's all a show. It's the greatest show on earth. Get your popcorn.
No, that was the greatest show on earth, and I enjoyed that one. This is
and that's one of the things. Like, even in the whole process, the judicial process, there should be a uniform way, a template that you can go through and easily do this. But it's like in the Western District Court, they could refuse your petition if it's not in the right point of font, double spaced, right margins, and everything like that. Then you go to the appeals court, and it's a different font class, it's a different size, and the Supreme Court, this is not an 8.5 by 11. It's a custom 6 1/8 by 9 1/4, I believe. I had to get a custom print shop, which is a shout out to Boomerang Printing in Tulsa off of Harvard. They did a really good job and even did a perfect binding to make it look professional. So the Supreme Justices, they wouldn't know, except for seeing that I wrote pro se on the title, that this came from anybody other.
Well, and it's funny because as you were saying that, I remember when I was a teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't tell them, if you didn't give them specific instructions, I mean, I literally one time was not as specific as I should have been. And I got an assignment on like somebody's, like they ripped it out of their mom's little, notepad or something.
Right.
So people who read things for a living, you do have to, unfortunately, today give them some kind of parameters, because otherwise you're going to hurt your eyes and your brain trying to keep up with some of the stuff that people are going to submit. But on the other hand, it's a specific size of paper.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, and that's the thing is, you would think it'd be uniform. Okay, this is all court filings, because it's not designed to make redress easy. It's only concerned about making the government's role easier.
Yeah.
And the Constitution was never intended to make the entity stronger than the people, but to be restrained by the Constitution.
Yes. No, 100%. I wanted to pull in a couple of their. Shelley says, because I said something earlier, I'm like, why does this keep happening? And she says it keeps being allowed because of a failure to inform. And I do think that's where we are with so many issues. People love to use this thing, especially younger people love to use this thing. But they do stuff like scrolling through Instagram and Snapchat. They're not like looking up issues that affect their life. I'm not studying the Constitution on this, right? You know what I'm saying? Which is just sad, because this makes study so much easier. It's just unbelievable how much easier it makes it we could be on top of so many things and informed about so many things if we would use this dopey thing the way we should, and not like a little mini computer, which is what it is, instead of our gateway to social media. Oh my gosh, did you see so-and-so let their dog out and they went into the, I mean, who cares?
Or the picture of dinner.
Oh, I love those. Look what I made tonight for dinner. Okay, well, thanks for sharing.
I call that phone brain rot, Jenny. Literal brain
But
rot.
it is, Michael. It is phone brain rot. And we could be using this for so many other things. I think I've told this story before, but I'm going to just tell it briefly again. So this has been years ago now, when my kids were in high school, and we were all sitting around the big table up here, which we used to study. And we were doing, I think we were having my world mythology class. So I built them a world mythology class, and we were studying world mythology. And I would make them put their phones in the middle of the table so they couldn't be doing something underneath the table, while I was teaching and we were having discussion. But then one of the girls said something like, well, how do I know that? And I said, have you thought about using this thing to look it up? They really honestly don't. Just doesn't compute with them.
Entertainment and social value only.
That's exactly. Do you know how many times I look stuff up on this thing? Oh my gosh, it's a constant thing. Constant.
It can be a massive tool or just a massive distraction and waste of your time.
It could be a massive tool, or you could be a massive tool with it.
And I support this message.
Well, hold on just 1 second. 1 second. Okay, Julie says it's fear over faith. God's law should apply to Christians, not man's law. Think Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And while I agree with you, 100% on that, Jules, the one thing that does frustrate me is that it's like I was saying earlier about when you get that list and you realize who votes and who doesn't. So many of the people that I know in my area, in the town of Luther, that are very Christian people will not vote. They won't vote. They don't believe in voting. They're not interested in voting. They feel like God is the supreme, so he takes care of everything, and there's no reason for them to vote. And it just kills me because I don't read anything in the Bible where Jesus says, don't engage in your government. I mean, did I miss that somewhere?
No, it's actually quite the opposite. If you look at the Bible, almost every prophet and even Jesus was actually involved with the rulers in high places. And we're in a country that we have a God-given right that we can represent ourselves if we, the people, stand up. And if the church would get up and get off of this farce of Abraham Lincoln's letter, it wasn't a government that the church should stay out of the government. It was the other direction. The government cannot come in like King George and say, you must be this type of Catholic.
That's correct. But people don't understand that it goes, and that's why when they talk about the separation between church and state, I actually believe there should be one, because what's happened now is the government has been affecting the church. Mm-hmm. And that's where you absolutely should draw that line. The government should never be allowed to affect the church. But when you have government giving vouchers to people to put their kids in private school, and that private Christian school is having to change the way they do business in order to receive the voucher, you're changing religion. You're messing with religion. When you have the state telling churches, hey, you take a religious exemption, you have a tax exemption, you're not going to open because of COVID. You're shut down. You can't open. That's where we need to make that break, We need to make a break. The church should not get anything from the state, and the state should not influence the church at all.
Right.
And
I
yet
think
it's
that's why
happening.
Abraham, yeah, that's what I believe Abraham Lincoln was saying, is that the government shouldn't even come in to the church and influence in any way. But you're right, that the churches should be following the scripture and doing and teaching a moral lesson, not taking the government or Caesar's dole.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, give me a church that doesn't take a tax exemption, and I'll consider going there, because that all you're doing with your tax exemption is just laying at the feet of Caesar. And then once you do that, then Caesar can say whatever he wants. Like during COVID, you will not open.
Yeah.
And it's wrong. And we shouldn't be doing that. And there's not an excuse or an argument that you can make to me that makes that work for me, because wherever you have government money, you have government influence, and there is no exemption to that.
And that goes to a lot of why, if we don't, as we the people, stand up even one at a time and overwhelm with these counter redress moments, like with these two cases, yeah, it was daunting, but relying that God would provide the information, and he was faithful to. As we go through, he highlighted other cases, but even on that, you should stand up and make your voice heard, because if there's too many people coming to the court, that's how you influence courts, is don't let the attorneys be the only one shifting how the court views.
Exactly. Julia said the Constitution was written by lawyers and bankers. It was intended to give the advantage to lawyers and bankers while convincing people that it was for the greater good, so to speak. What do you think about that, Adam?
I think after the first 10 amendments for the Bill of Rights, that's true. Because, if you want to get into a little Bible story, I remember God only gave 10 laws to a certain person coming down the hill, and man created how many more after that?
That's pretty good. But it's true. It's true.
Well, think about it.
Think about how heavy those tablets would have been had there been 20.
But and think about the Bill of Rights was inspired by Deuteronomy. So it's like, it didn't say Deuteronomy this. The concepts and the principles was inspired by the book of Deuteronomy in the Torah, in the Old Testament of the Bible. So it's like, when we converted from that and added things beyond that and not within the scope of that, that's where you get the tyranny we see.
Yeah. Julie also says that her church does not take a tax exemption. So there you go, everybody. The Gathering Community Church does not take a tax exemption. So good for them.
Well, here's the thing is, churches, if they had business people to understand how you can take expenses and different things, the tax code is written in a way that they wouldn't show a profit anyway. So why are you worried about a profit or a tax? Just consider what Jesus said: give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and if you do owe, then you should be saying, praise God, we owe something.
Yeah.
That's a really good, we can't give it away.
Yeah, honestly, that's a really good way to look at it. I hadn't even thought about that, but that's a really good way to look at it for sure. And which, actually, now that you say that though, Adam, that goes to then why are so many organizations filing for nonprofit state, and now we talk about, gosh, Julian Romanella has been on talking about nonprofits. We've had other people talk about Katie Smith has talked about nonprofits and how nonprofit organizations have now become evil in so many cases. They're flying under the radar. They're getting money, to influence where they shouldn't be influencing. And it just seems to me that we just should not have that. Just shouldn't be something that we have. If you want to do, what Rope's done forever. We've never been a 501c3 or 4 or anything like that. And we've had to suck it up and pay taxes, on really 1 year pretty hard. But the point of the matter is they don't know us. They don't own us. I mean,
Well, I've always been a proponent of a fair tax system that isn't on your wage or your property or anything, but as a consumption tax. And the way I look at it is if 10% is good for our God, then we could do a tithe system of sales tax. And each local community has 10% and they send 10% to the state. State sends 10% to the government. And then it's based on it increases people buying stuff because they keep their full revenue. It takes property tax away because we can't pursue life, liberty, and happiness if the government, once we pay our home off, can seize it on an arbitrary lien or something, a tax bill or something. So it's like to be completely free, 10%, and each community ties up to its leader.
Well, and just on top of that, Adam, when you think about it, the people with the most money, they have the absolute most, they can pay to get the tax, attorneys and tax people in there to allow them to keep the most amount of money. But they're also the largest consumers, more or less in the country. So if you did put a consumption tax on, it would eliminate all of those loopholes, all of those things. You'd probably actually collect a lot more tax than the current system if you just did 10%.
Oh yeah, because here's the thing is, you think these large companies have millions of dollars a year in tax accountants to pay $100,000 in taxes?
Yeah.
So that's why this tax system won't ever be produced until we, the people, stop voting in repeat office holders.
Yeah,
We almost have to have a reset where everybody gets the mindset if they've been in office more than one term, they're automatically don't vote for them.
Yeah, but that's, what's weird though, Adam, is we have exactly the opposite. Think about how many bad judges we have in this system right now. And it's because everybody goes into the voting booth and goes, judges, I don't know. Judges, retain. Nobody ever even stops to go, I wonder if maybe we shouldn't retain them. That's what's so crazy about it. It's like our brains aren't even wired to critically think it. We just go retain. I mean, am I wrong?
No, you're not.
I'm going to say I am absolutely not wrong because we would see turnover if I was not wrong.
See, that's how do we get the populace to change their mind frame to say, let's keep the same old. Let's go back to get rid of everybody. At least for 2 election cycles, just say don't retain anybody.
Yeah.
And say keep everybody. Let's just don't. Granted, we'll get rid of some good ones. They can run again. But if we remove everybody and don't do an auto default to keep,
I know it's just so dumb.
Well, and then what do you have at the federal level? You have the president appoints all those federal judges, right? I mean that's an issue I had with President Trump. Why didn't he just come in and remove all of those judges across the board?
They can't constitutionally.
Oh, they can't constitutionally.
Yeah, I don't believe they can because the judicial is a constitutional branch and it's in the Constitution. I believe it. I'd have to do a little bit more research, but I think they're a constitutional appointment for life originally to prevent bad precedent from taking over. But when you appoint a bad person, honestly, and I don't know if this video gets anywhere, why is auto pen justice still on the bench.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good
because
point.
that justice was put in the bench for by a illegal signing, or has no one thought
Which
of that?
one was that? Tell me.
Was that Sotomayor, or it was?
I think, um, or was it Katenji?
It might have been contingent.
Yeah, I think maybe that was. Gracie says they can't remove, they can only appoint to cover an opening. So there you go. That's where we are.
Yeah, Ketanji Brown is the one that
Yeah.
was put in, but her placement was signed by AutoPen, which is unconstitutional. So she should automatically be vacated, and maybe her cases that she had ruled on may be void now.
Yeah, but who's going to do that though, Adam? That's the problem that we're here to talk about just in general, is who's going to do the right thing? Who's going to follow the law? People just don't anymore. Like I said,
Right.
law. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so bored. You're talking about law. It's just crazy. I
think that's one of the things that when we got out of high school, everybody, were you interested in doing any homework of your own, of making sure you learned everything that you were supposed to? And to be honest, it wasn't until after I was prompted to do this primary election case that I really got in and saw the constitutional amendments the way that they were written, not the way that they have been perverted.
No, it's interesting that you say that though, because I remember graduating from college. I mean, especially with my second degree, and I was dying laughing because when my oldest son graduated from college, he said exactly the same thing. I don't feel like I know anything. I don't feel like I know enough to have this degree. I don't feel, what do I know? I mean, it is weird, but I didn't know any of the stuff that I know now about government until I taught myself. And that was after I'd already had kids, and my kids were now in the middle of something, and I was seeing problems going on at their school because they were originally in public school. And then I was like, why is this happening? And then once I started asking those questions, I had to find answers somewhere. So I had to actively go search the answers out. And then it just opened up this whole book of, oh my goodness. And then Michael made everything worse by making me read that book. And so, I mean, people have to be open to researching and learning themselves. People have to be open to that. But we've trained them for bread and circuses. So they would much rather sit down with Netflix or The Thunder or whatever that is and spend the time doing that than spending the time going, wait a minute, so what is the 14th Amendment and how can I do? I mean, that's not interesting to them because that's how we've trained people.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people also, Jenny, just they think that the history that they learned through their short education process is the real history, and that it's all been interpreted correctly. And who are they to even question anything, let alone even think about questioning something from the past? So it was in my book, it said this, it said that. I think a lot of people, they don't even realize that maybe they should ask a question in the first place.
Yeah, and part of it too is that they have created this bondage system to keep us tired. So if it wasn't for having
That's true.
family meals together with my son and daughter one day, I think they were in their 8th and 9th grade, and I was asking them about what the school is teaching them about the Constitution, about the Second Amendment. And their response is, well, it's so you can defend yourself against your neighbor. So naturally, I had to then take an hour or two and explain why the Second Amendment was against tyranny of powers in high places and different things. And if you're in a free country, you don't have problems with your neighbor unless if a power comes in and tries to divide you.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's pretty much probably the root of all of it, Adam, is that's why it is so complex now.
Yeah.
There's so many rules, there's so many laws, there's such an administrative state, there's a police state. It's so complex. If you just went back to the original freedoms and liberties, given to us by our creator, and that's how we live our lives, we wouldn't need all the complexity of all this stuff and all these courts, and back to like Julie's point with the lawyers and bankers, you'd be able to do business without all of them. You'd be able to, live your life without all of that stuff. But I guess that's the point. We just live, we literally just live in 100% tyranny, and we don't even realize it because we look at our phone and we laugh at videos, and we can go out to eat whenever we want.
It make people sick to realize we're actually taxed over 60% of our gross income every year, and we don't realize it. You got the sales tax, the fuel tax, the property tax. I'm surprised they haven't taxed us on breathing. They tax us on travel.
The tax on your communications, on your cell phone, on your telephone bill, on your internet. I mean, that stuff, if you ever just really look at how much taxes you're paying, it just blow your mind.
You said something a minute ago. It triggered a thought I had the other day, talking about how this whole system. I think it was Senator Kennedy said on the floor that we need to come up with new conspiracy theories. All the old ones are coming true.
Yep.
but if you look at the system, and this is getting into that little fringe there. Back when the 1910, the presidential preferential primary, and how they overthrew the Supreme Court's ruling and created the agencies, the three-letter agencies that keep us bound, the IRS, you can say CIA and the FBI and all that. There's great men and women in both agencies, don't get me wrong. But it's usually the power at the top that perverts the system.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask both of you a question. What color are both of the political parties?
What?
What are the colors of the political parties?
You mean like red and blue?
Blue.
Yeah.
Okay, so a system is designed to divide us and to keep us in tension, right? So if you're driving down the road, what are the two colors that you instantly drop when you see behind your driving down the road?
Oh yeah, red and blue.
So is it coincidental that our education system, our classrooms are all in lines and in the industrial stage in a manner that is a good little worker? Here's your 5-minute break on the hour. Go back to work for an hour. Here's your 30-minute lunch.
Yeah.
If you go down the road, there's constant reminders of red and blue. Every election, constant reminder of red and blue of control systems. And then if you get in trouble with all, the same school buses that took you to elementary school are painted a different color and take you through the back gate of the jail.
Well, I wish it weren't so true, but I mean, it is, and most people just don't flat see it. I mean, they just don't, and because they have the velvet handcuffs, right?
Yeah.
But I get to go to my Thunder game, but I get to watch, my show on Netflix. I get to go out to dinner, and they just don't. I mean, that's all they want. That's all they want. They just don't.
Bread in a circus.
Yeah. One, and in the vein of that 1910, Adam, I mean, I know but that's, Jenny, when those bankers and all those elitists, those globalists, that's when they met on Jekyll Island to basically formulate the 16th Amendment. Yeah. One way or another, that all happened in 1910.
Right. Yeah, 1910 was a bad year.
Yeah, especially it's just coincidental that Morgan decided to get off the Titanic too right after that. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole rabbit trail on that with the people that actually went on the Titanic compared to the ones that didn't go on the Titanic, that were, for and against that entire central banking system. I mean,
Right.
just coincidental. Is it coincidental? Who knows? Probably not.
But if you understand historical patterns and 100-year cycles, they try to reset and shift and control every 100 years. That's why Rockefellers, Rothschilds, and these big, long historical names, they have systems. And if you look at the central bank systems and the way that they came in, we're printing money like it there's
Oh,
a endless
yeah.
supply. You know when they did that first, World War I in Germany, the German mark.
Yeah.
If you want a history, interesting history to search, look up what happened in World War I and German mark, because they did what the central bank is doing to America today to destabilize our economy. And not only that, but a lot of people don't realize our debts are supposed to be paid in gold and silver according to the
Right.
Constitution.
Yes.
So ever since they took us off the gold standard, and I'd even dare say that we weren't even supposed to do a representation of gold for our debts as a country.
Yeah.
Well, couple of comments in here that I just thought were really good. The goal is to keep us focused on everyday stress so we don't pay attention to the everyday working of the powers that be. And I think that's so true, because I just think about everything that you wake up and you think, I can't have this much to do today. I mean, there's just can't be that much. And Julia says, some of us know that all of this is going on. We're mad about it. I mean, obviously. And this was a really great comment from Gracie. The green energy garbage is basically taxing our breathing. I haven't even thought about that, but it is. So there you go, Adam. We are being taxed for our breathing. And yeah, it's true. We're happy slaves. Well, I think we're going to have to wrap it up for today. But Adam, I just, I'm just so impressed that you were able to do this yourself, and pro se means yourself in a court, you representing yourself in a court, and to get something before the Supreme Court. I just guess I kind of want people, I want to go, look, you can't even vote, and look what this guy's doing. Really? So when you start complaining and you haven't even voted because you just can't bother, but you're very politically active, but you can't, I mean, I can't even with you. I just can't. So, just like Julia says, bravo. Well done. And thank you so much for educating us about all of this, and definitely, please keep me updated on what's going on with the lawsuit. And then, I can make updates on here. If you'll just let us know what's going on. But I mean, I appreciate you being on today and explaining all of this. I always love, and I know Michael does too, we always love having conversations about history, because people, they're all bored about that too. So
yeah, I think that's one of the things. If you don't at least try to understand your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And I don't want to repeat the pre-1776. I
don't either, but I mean, even in this state, we're there pretty good right now. So
absolutely. And one of the things, just a kind of final note, I think one of the things with that 836 case, I'm asking the court, or basically telling the court, that the state cannot condition or constrict constitutionally protected choices at the general election by prior procedural mechanisms or any event that's before that exclude, dilute, or predetermine options. It's almost like we're only smart enough to vote for everybody in June, but too dumb on the day it actually changes power.
That's funny. That's funny. Although, I mean, historically, voter turnout is always better in the general than it is in the primary anyway. I mean, but I'm not excusing any of the other stuff. I'm just saying it is interesting to me that in general, votership is higher during the general election.
It's the design. It's kind of like one of the main reasons why I went ahead and jumped on state question 836 in the court is because I saw the window. A lot of people don't realize Governor Stitt had the power to issue a special ballot election or a special election for that state question before April 1. If they would have verified all signatures January 26th. Because it did not come through the legislator, it was from the people. And that's the thing, is that's how these constitutional amendments and laws get added without people really realizing. I know in 2023 in March, I never heard of a special election being taking place on a ballot initiative, and until after I was looking backwards and like, I don't remember that. So if they issue a special election, it's not garnered the advertisement that there is a special election like the primary or general. And that was my concern is Governor Stitt had the executive power to put a special ballot election out there, and it would have changed our primary coming up without anybody knowing until we got there. Yeah, but thank God the signatures came back for unverified. Imagine that over 200,000 signatures turned in, and they only verified what was it, 142,567 against the rolls.
Well, but again, here was the big problem with that, and I said this in another forum recently. I know that I was confronted by a signature gatherer in the Walmart parking lot. And he said he was paid, Well, so in the Walmart parking lot, I would be interested in just doing some kind of a general survey to find out how many of the people who go to Walmart are actually voters. But during the course of the interaction that I had with the guy in the Walmart parking lot, never one time did he ask me, was I a citizen of Oklahoma? And was I a registered voter in the state of Oklahoma? Never asked me these questions. So, these people were like, yeah, I want to be on the ballot. And they hadn't ever voted or even registered. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, there's a way to do things and there's a way not to do things. And that was not a way to do things.
No.
Here, you want to get your dog to sign it?
Yeah. I have one more question for Adam. Adam, are you by trade? Are you an attorney?
No, sir. I am.
Even better.
I'm a office manager for commercial construction. So
even better. There we go. That's just. I have so much respect for what you're doing, Adam, because you're just a regular guy using what the founders laid out in the Constitution for just an everyday citizen to take up, a grievance almost all the way up to the Supreme Court of the land.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, if I could take it all the way to the president's desk, I would.
Well, if you get it through the Supreme Court and they actually do take it up, that will be quite a thing.
Yeah, I'll be very interested in seeing, should the Supreme Court rule in our favor on this first one, because we are literally asking the Supreme Court to recognize that every act committed by a fraudulent body of Congress since 1910 is void.
Yeah. Yes, that's going to be it'll be interesting. But look what they did with, oh my goodness, I'm having a brain freeze. The
Roe
Indian
Wade.
Compact.
Yeah.
No, the Indian compact that they just did. Oh my goodness. Come on, guys. Changed said that within Indian territory, there's no, it's a sovereign state. McGirt, guys. McGirt.
Yeah.
So you think about what they did with McGirt, right? That was unbelievably odd.
Mhm.
Unbelievably odd. Still don't see how they came to that conclusion. Doesn't really make any sense to me. So, I don't know with the things that they, who knows with them.
Now, I do want to ask you this, Adam. If they decide not to take it, that's just the end of the road there?
No, there's a appeal request, a form of it that I can submit back into it to have it reconsidered.
Because ultimately they may not want to take it because they don't want to admit that, yeah, we've been doing it wrong for, 115 years.
But if they can make a big decision like McGirt and overturn all of that, they can make a big decision like this too.
Yeah.
Also think about it. During the same early 70s precedent, they just turned over Chevron.
Yes.
So
that was good.
And also,
good.
What was the other one? It dealt with the overturning of Roe versus Wade was during the same time period when they ruled on it. Yeah. Well, guess what? These primary cases that they are using as saying it is constitutional is in the same judgment period of those cases. So the same bad rulings that they were overturning already, there's two of them that they're saying primaries are constitutional based on what California and I think Texas said. But my case goes back saying that the original act was unconstitutional, so you can't claim it's constitutional through precedent because the original act is unconstitutional.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, Adam, thank you again so much for being with us. Gracie said, as always, thanks for the info and food for thought. I just wish we could get more eyes open. So again, totally appreciate you being with us. Keep in touch and let us know what's going on.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you guys having me on this morning. It's been really fun. And I would encourage everybody to share this as much as they can, because right now, the more public opinion we can get, especially in that first case, if we can get on national news to make a stink in the news, that'd be awesome, because then the Supreme Court can't just say, well, no one knows about this.
Right. Well, who knows? We'll see what we can cook up here. But thanks again for being with us. Thank you for being bold and doing this yourself and realizing that we don't just have to lay down and go, I can't. So you're an excellent Templar for the rest of us to throw that out and that idea out and to do what we need to do and make the government respond to us, we the people.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Blessings. Have a wonderful day. It looks like it's actually going to be nice for the rest of the week. So enjoy that. And then just keep up with me and I'll tell people what's going on.
Sounds great. Thanks
for being with us. All righty. Bye-bye. Julia said special election for special people that will give government more money.
Yeah. Well, think about it also, Jenny. Think about if you didn't have that entire primary system. Think about how much money is spent by taxpayers to do the entire primary system, across the board on top of it.
Yeah, but I kind of wonder, so just thinking about that, translating that into, so then if we do it constitutionally and you have 16 people on one big ballot in November, right? Think about how much money is going to go to have to make your candidate stand out.
Well, yeah, but that wouldn't be, I wouldn't be paying for that necessarily, I wouldn't be paying for that candidate.
Well, how are you paying for that candidate during the primary?
Well, no, my tax money's being used to run the primaries and,
Yes.
do all
Right.
that.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, there's no
I'm just saying
question
the
about that.
elimination of that. But also, if the Republican Party wanted to run their own primary to choose, their candidate that they wanted, then I mean they could do that themselves independently of the
Well, that's a
state and
fair
taxpayer
cop.
dollars.
That's a fair cop, actually.
I mean,
You
they're
know,
all self, that party's self-funded, in one way or another. Basically, they could run their own primary, run their own people the same way they do it now. Just take it out of our actual law, because like it's just like when I first moved down here, and I was voting a lot more, and I was a lot more. I mean, I was an independent. It cracked me up. the first primary. So there was a primary, and I showed up over there at the polling place, and the lady goes, "Well, you're an independent. You don't have a primary today." I was like, "So I can't vote today because I'm an independent?" She goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Okay." I mean, I had no idea at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a weird one to me. I still have to figure out how to reconcile that because I guess that's one reason why I do like what Adam's saying, because it would just take all the steam out of political parties to just do it the proper way and have everybody on the ballot at the same time. And
really,
but I mean, when you look at it, it just hit me though, Michael, when you look at it. So how many people do we have running for governor right now? 7? 6? Something like that?
Maybe.
Okay, so just think, so that's the primary, right? And you've got a bunch of those guys, whose voting record suggests they're more Democrat than Republican, right? And yet we've got one Democrat who's at least has the gumption to say, hey, I'm a real Democrat, right? So if you put all 8 of those people together on the same ballot and they say who they are, right? I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm an independent. And then they're all on the same ballot at the same time on the one day in November, right? What's really the difference?
Well, if they're all bad, there's no difference. But what if there is, a good person in there?
Well, then you vote for that good person, right? I mean, that person still gets your votes. I don't know. I just think it's very interesting.
Well, I don't like the fact that
Julia said they'd be putting 100 people on the ballot to run against their one Democrat, which is what I was just saying. Yeah.
Well, I just don't like the fact that, you either have to pick red or you have to pick blue.
Right.
And this is who, they say we have to pick. I mean, it's 100% rigged against us for their own power and control. We see that in our state legislature with the caucus power of the party and all of that BS. I mean, whether you're all the way up here at the federal level or all the way down here, at the lowest political party levels of the state, it's the same song and dance.
Yeah.
They choose for us. And then those people go do the bidding of whoever's, paying into those parties. I mean, that's literally what happens.
Right. No, I mean, absolutely. Adam did pop in here and said, thank you for having me on today. Political parties should hold their own primaries and endorse the candidate they choose. And I think that's right. Regardless of other R's and D's on the ballots, each party can endorse their own candidate. There's no reason that they couldn't do that. There's just not. But I think that what would end up happening there, obviously, you would be getting the establishment candidate, right? Because the pick, I don't know that it would necessarily be a grassroots thing.
But well, in the same vein, Jenny, what if you go through 2 or 3 cycles and the the person that they're putting out, keeps getting defeated because there's enough votes to these other candidates that maybe the Democrats winning. So they're going to have to adopt the system. They're going to have to adopt a better candidate or help a better candidate. Otherwise, they're going to keep losing. I mean,
that's a really good point, Michael. I think that's a great point. Yeah, I think
it's kind of like I think about it like when we talk education and the private schools and them getting the money.
Yes.
If the public schools, if people were leaving the public schools and going to private school, regardless of the voucher, if the private schools were taking money from the public school, then the public school would have to get better to retain those kids.
Yeah.
There's no real mechanism in place now for the public schools to get any better, do a better job. Even with the voucher, even with that, it's not really doing anything to have real competition.
Yeah. No, I mean, I yeah, for sure.
I kind of see that same way. They have this system the way that it is so that these two parties don't have competition. There's establishment people in both parties all the time, and they get to choose who those people are. And then they just allow us to go through the pomp, of an election, making it like we're important and we're doing something.
Well, and Julie makes a good point too. GOP will not agree to unofficially have a candidate. There's a brawl every time they have a convention, and I mean, I think that's pretty accurate. So, I do think that's part of the reason why they lobby to keep this unconstitutional system in place. Yeah. And it's sad that I didn't even know it wasn't constitutional.
Well, how would we know? How would we know? And that's something, Adam was mentioning, history, and another part of that history is, really the history that I think we learn is really the history that's written by the winner. Over time, if you're the central bankers and you're these people and you're these people, over time you're gonna contribute to the people writing the books and doing the things to slant it in your favor. You're not going to tell the full truth of what happened, this or that, So we didn't know about that because they don't want us to know about that. They would never teach us about that.
Gracie said, as you said that, Gracie said they don't want us to know.
Yeah, they don't. They do not want us to know the real history.
Well, but I think that's why there's such an argument over these history standards, the ones that Ryan wants versus the ones that our illustrious governor wants.
Yeah.
They don't, I mean, if they, and I'm not sure our governor really has any kind of knowledge of history anyway. I think he's just a business guy who only wants to run everything like a business, end of discussion. He doesn't appear to me to be a person who has any interest in history or following what we should be doing. I mean, because he thinks what he's doing is great. And so we'll just do that. And that's always been, specifically in this last term of his, exactly what I feel like. So I definitely feel like those in power have their own agenda. And if we know something different, then we're going to put a little pickle in that agenda that they don't want. And there is a whole lot of, let's just make them, let's just make sure that they don't know these things, for whatever reason. And Gracie said, absolutely, if they teach us the whole truth, then everybody will know. They'll be unveiled.
Our current history is literal control. I mean, it's another mechanism of control.
Yeah. I mean, it's just awful. So, anything going on with you for the week that you're like, hey, this is awesome?
This is awesome.
I'm just asking.
Yeah, I'll have to show some pictures. So I got my car almost completely done. I've got it painted.
The car.
I've got most of it all restored. I'm finishing up redoing a lot of the parts on the interior, some other stuff. So next week, I guess next week's spring break too, so I can do a bunch of work then. But I'll have some pictures for you here before too long. I'm pretty excited. It's got 300,000 miles on it. Still running like a champ because I take care of my stuff.
What is it in 1974?
No, 1986 Cutlass Salon. It's the first car I bought when I was. I bought that in 1993 when I was just turned 17 years old. Still have that car. Everybody loves it. All my kids love it. Everywhere we go, I drive it. Everybody's giving me thumbs up. Love your car. Taking pictures. It is hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious.
You crack me up. All right. Well, we're going to have a great guest on Friday, Lisa Janlu, who is running for labor commissioner. But not only is Lisa running for labor commissioner, but her family is Persian, and she has been very involved in the very vocal about what's going on in Iran. And so if you don't really know, if that's not been something that you've been following, I just noticed my family having a discussion in our Wordle conversation today about that. I just suggest, and if you want to ask her questions, buzz in and ask her questions. That's the beauty of going live, is, you have that ability to ask questions. But she's going to be on, she's going to be on Friday. So you want to be here at 9 a.m. on Friday for that. My oldest son is coming in today.
Oh, good.
So I'm excited to have him stay for a little bit. He's coming in to get a car, Michael. Coming in to get a car. So he flew in so he can drive the car back. It's a car that he's going to fix up. I'm like, I sure hope it gets you back to Colorado. I hope you're not having to put so much work into it. You can't even get it back over the state line. So anyway, so I'll have a nice weekend. We're all going to go family dinner tomorrow night. So I'm excited. We haven't even been together since Christmas. So that'll be really nice. So please be with us on Friday, 9 a.m. Got some great shows coming up next week too. Really good shows. D-Sage, that's going to be a big one. I'm really, really, really.
Yeah. Hey, you need to hit Adam's comment too with George Orwell. I mean, that's
Adam said George Orwell, who controls the past, controls the future, who controls the present, controls the past. And that's absolutely
100%.
fabulous. And Julie, by the way, she was very, very up for your car too. And you'll have to stick make sure to bring the pictures for next time. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being on today. We really appreciate you, as we always do. Enjoy the beautiful weather today, and we will see you again on Friday morning at 9 a.m. with Lisa Janlu. So be here then. Have a great day. Bye.